But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Sven P, Curved Fart, Pablo de la Cruz, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, JMLs 24, Unionamento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hey, lads.
How's it going?
Not too bad. Just having a cheeky cig break before my next job. How are you?
Alright, just checking things are all working correctly. I think somehow on the last update it's managed to transition my browser from Chrome to Edge without me noticing. So do you remember yesterday me saying that my computer had added a load of my daughter's stuff to the computer? Well, while solving that issue, I didn't notice that I only noticed it just now. I'm like, something doesn't seem quite right. And because I'd just made the whole
one of the things update, it generally gives you an option of using that browser as the default browser, so that's probably what happened.
Yeah, I don't recall that. Nevertheless. Anyway, it's obviously done that, so yeah, I'm sure it must have done it at some point. But it's been done in such a subtle way that I didn't notice and can't recall doing that. You know what I mean?
So I'd be screwed because I can't remember my passwords for everything, and they're all bloody different. If I had a new browser to start again, I'd have to create all new accounts.
Yeah, I just had to sign back into everything. But because it had just done an update, I didn't think twice about it. But I've essentially logged myself in on on a different, a different service now. That's interesting. Subtly moved me from one thing to another, and through my irritation and seeing things that my daughter owns on my desktop page, I've gone, something's gone wrong, and I've started resolving issues and logging back in. But what I'm actually doing without realizing it is logging myself, like I say, into all these Edge browsers without realizing it. Anyway, it works. Jolly good. I haven't been drinking enough because I'm really dried out and I've got a really sore throat. So hot, you just pour with sweat all day and you don't think, I must increase the amount of water I drink. And again, I got behind a little bit on trimming out videos, so I was trimming out those Feast of Nonsense videos. And today is Friday, and the Wednesday video had half a dozen, I think we did, or 5, I forget. And I've done 1. And there was yesterday's show when we did another 5, I think. Hey, I'm hoping to get through 10 more Feast of Nonsense questions.
Is there only 10 left on the list?
Yeah, 10. It's been fun doing it. I've thoroughly enjoyed having a list of waffle that we're walking away from.
Yeah, but also nice to have an easy batch of content just to drill through as well.
Well, it means I can put a flat earth spin, that is to say, actually turn each Feast of Nonsense question into the identification of a flat earth prerequisite that's been whistled past with each of them. So, you know, if I'm demeaning them and calling them crappy, that is to say they're a shit pile, then out of that shit pile grows a few roses. We walk away from it. You know what I mean? And there's a fair chance that in some small way it is part of the lexicon of flat earth in a way. These concepts, these claim to be experiments, these proofs, these conspiracies, and therefore people will look them up or be naturally drawn to them. And if they're naturally drawn to my summary about it, so today I trimmed out one about Bedford Level, people might be inclined to look that up and then hear me waffling on about how you're actually whistling past several flat earth prerequisites when you do that. By do it, I mean look into the Bedford Level in its original guise. Is you're just looking at it from the perspective of, oh well, we see too far then. You know, check it out with their telescope. They can still see the boat. Should be an earth curve in the way.
Oh, brother.
But that's why we're, you know, walking away from this crap. So the one we're opening with today is no parallax with the stars. What is parallax? It's an assessment of angle differentiation, isn't it? If I could say the word.
Angle, you say?
Angle differentials. So, yes. Yes. Angle, you say? I might need you guys backing me up today. I can feel I'm going to lose my voice in the middle of this show. Yeah, I'll gen you up before we start in half an hour, and hopefully by then you're all warmed up and can answer some of the questions.
I'll try and ship in when I can, but I'm running a little behind today. We'll probably get finished at 7:30. What a git.
No bother.
We'll call on you as our correspondent from Antarctica.
Okie dokie. Sounds familiar?
I don't understand why Bluetooth is so different than having a wire plugged in. And I really don't understand it.
Okie dokie.
Have you ever tripped over a Bluetooth connection?
No.
Have you ever ripped a cable out of something, tripping over it?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, but why does it sound so different? I mean, you know when somebody's on Bluetooth.
Well, you could argue about what's the difference between an analog record and a digital CD or an MP3. One's a conversion from the original analog into a digital format and then decoded into a sound that is produced as an analog thing. Bluetooth is digital, but then you're sending digital information, so it shouldn't really make a difference.
But it does pertaining to this, because you hear immediately when somebody's on Bluetooth. As soon as they take it off and are speaking right into their phone or whatever, much different.
There's got nothing to do with the transmission at all, and everything to do with the equipment. Right, Bluetooth is outstanding. There's nothing wrong with Bluetooth if it's done correctly and done with really good equipment. So when Bluetooth wasn't really considered anything other than a headset transmission system for dweebs in cars with little things in their ears, right? I was working with a company that had taken the patent and developed into something that could be considered hi-fi. That is to say, it was transmitting, not lossless, but very, very highly rated MP3s. So MP3s that a current studio would go, yeah, you can't tell the difference between that and a CD. The way it's been compressed is basically indistinguishable. I can't remember what rate it would be, but let's say it's 256, just for the sake of it. It could transmit that. Now, moving forward through that product's generations, it got to the point where it could just transmit lossless data. But at the time I was first demonstrating it, I was at a show, and I had this hi-fi that was probably 100 grand right in this corner in the middle of this big warehouse or whatever they do shows in, right? And I'm just there demonstrating it. And what I had was my phone in my pocket, and it was just a cheap Sony, right, pink thing. It was just designed to look kind of weird. I picked out one that was obscure. It was an old design, but a modern phone. So it was a flip phone. So people would look at it and go, oh, that looks nostalgic. You know what I mean? It would just kind of catch your eye, right, while it was sat on the open out, like on one of the podiums. And people kind of go, wow, that sounds amazing. And they'd look at this stereo and go, where's the sound coming from? As in, it's not got, they couldn't see a CD player, there was no record player. They're like, where's it actually coming from? And then you'd show them on the phone that it was being transmitted via the phone. Yeah? That is to say, it was outstanding. Nobody could tell that it was coming from a phone. It was just being Bluetoothed from the phone into a DAC and out through a set of speakers after being amplified. And people were absolutely amazed. Now, take that absolutely outstanding data transfer technology, it's all it is, right? If it's transmitting the ones and zeros in a nice flow and they're coming through, then that's it. It's great, right? Well, no, because if you've got a shitty transceiver or transmitter or receiver, you get intermittent dropout on the signal transfer. If you've got a shitty mic, you hear the shitty mic that's attached to the system that's transmitting. You know what I mean? If you've got a shitty little amplifier in there that's interfering with the transmission or transceiving signal, then it's going to mess up the signal as it comes through the analog conversion to your ear holes when you're listening to the shitty little Bluetooth thing that you shove in your ear. So it's normally not the fault of Bluetooth. So when people go, Bluetooth shit, no, it's not. It's just cheap. People turn it into a cheap pile of shit with a cheap, horrible thing that you shove in your ear, with a cheap, horrible mic, with a cheap Chinese chip inside it, and then they go, oh, Bluetooth shit. No, it's not. Bluetooth's amazing. What are you talking about? It's sending signals that are potentially indistinguishable from the original source through the frickin' air. You're telling me that's crap? No.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Every person that speaks on your show on Bluetooth, it sounds like shit.
Fine, whatever.
So you're saying if I had a better phone, it was coming through? What about when you're in a high-end car? Same thing. They sound like they're in a freaking tunnel.
It's like buying a really crappy gun, right? Going out to the range, trying to fire it, and it's a piece of shit, right? And you go, 9mm bullets are rubbish. That's what you're doing.
Well, then what do you got to... Okay, so then What's the good system to put in the Bluetooth?
I don't know. I'm not working in Dixon's. I'm having a sandwich.
I don't care what you get. You're still going to hear the difference. As soon as they take the Bluetooth off and they speak directly into the phone, you hear them as clear as day. Do I have to prove it and do a demonstration live?
No, I don't disbelieve you. But that's because the mic in the phone has had a lot more attention to how it sounds paid to it than some cheap 10 quid earpiece. Whereas if you buy a £200 really, really nice Bluetooth earpiece, it works, generally speaking.
Oh, okay.
But then you've got to spend $200 on the thing. It's like anything.
All right, so the device that's coming through itself, you're saying, sucks. So if I go out and I get a really good Bluetooth system, like say $200-300, you're going to tell me it's going to sound nice coming through.
Well, let's put it a different way. You could buy. Have you ever seen the gamers with headphones on, with really big mics attached to them and giant cans and their
Yes.
Right. You could plug
and a nice microphone on it.
Yeah, he knows where I'm going. Right, that's just because it's got nice equipment. I'm trying to describe the headset as just being a nice, I don't know, $1,000 headset with mic, right? The best of the best, right? If you just took the cable and plugged a Bluetooth transceiver onto the end of the cable, it will take whatever signal goes into it and transmit it. If it's a £25-35 decent quality transmitter, it'll just transmit that signal from a 3.5 mm TRRS connection and just Bluetooth that out. So it's just a transmission system. So what I would do if I needed to do something wirelessly, I mean, I probably wouldn't use Bluetooth, but I'd use an XLR system. That's what I do. But if I was in a position where it was transmitting back and forth from a phone, i.e. Bluetooth makes sense, I'd pick what I wanted to use as a mic or as a pair of headphones and make that be the primary focus. And once I've got that was okay, something that was, either going in your ear, and then I'd figure out how to get that signal into a Bluetooth transmitter. Or I'd buy a really nice, already designed to be good Bluetooth system that was a couple of $100 minimum, and then it would just be a good system to begin with. But there's always loads of options, and they're almost always based on you're getting what you pay for. Now, I know that's not always true, but it is generally true. That's to say, I'm sure there are Bluetooth headsets that are subtle, that you can hardly notice they're there, cost $500 and give you crystal clear playback because they've got an outstanding tiny little condenser in them and a really well thought out circuit and an excellent Bluetooth structure around them. I don't know what they are, they're just headphones. They look more like noise, like they design. The primary focus on them was to keep other noises out. Like they're designed to be used on a work site.
Yeah, you commented on me things. I just couldn't hear because I had to take them off to show you. Yeah, I've got like still Bluetooth noise cancellers, but you pay the premium for the still brand. But the sound quality and Bluetooth quality aren't amazing on these, to be perfectly honest. Some little cheap ones that I've got are much better, which is frustrating considering these cost like...
I mean, there's you proving me wrong. I mean, this sounds outstanding.
I'll prove my point. By the way, it was a pretty good show yesterday.
What did we talk about?
Going through the Feast of Nonsense and then bouncing back to what transpired the day before. Pretty good.
Oh, 8-hour extravaganzas.
Yeah, because it was actually funny hearing people saying, I killed you. But everything is like detached from them. If it was a sword fight, they'd be decapitated. the head would still be screaming, "I won!"
Yeah, there was one. I listened to the whole thing through, and there was one. I don't want to say imperfection, something that left me with a slightly bitter taste in my mouth, an unresolved section in my mind. Right, so there's a particular point where somebody says that I just lie and can't help myself, or do I want to stop being a less of a see you next Tuesday, and be right about something. I can't remember exactly how it was phrased, but the inference was that I'd been wrong specifically about something. Yeah. And up until that point, we've been mainly talking about celestial navigation with the sextant. This guy instantly misrepresents me with an appeal to more ancient methodologies that hadn't been discussed, right? When I'm just asking him to justify where I've been wrong. With me so far?
Yes.
So in so doing, as soon as he did it, I misrepresented him immediately. Yeah. By intentionally ignoring his response about antiquity and bringing it back to the sextant. Because I've talked about the sextant. He wants to make an example that's just a debating point contrary to what he believes my point is. That's not me being wrong. But that's him saying I am wrong and then justifying it with, well, I can give an example of. In other words, it's not something I've said. It's something that hasn't been debated that he can bring up subsequent to calling me a liar or being wrong or whatever he was doing. So by intentionally misrepresenting him back, I'm hoping at some point he'll say, well, you're not saying that it's a device from antiquity that measures from zenith. I am, right? At which point I want to point out that he's only in the discussion with me because he's suggested I'm wrong about something. You with me so far?
Yes.
But therefore, when I listen to it back, like, because I was very tired, I'd done 8 hours, I'm like, listening for where that got resolved. That is to say, generally speaking, I pride myself on being able to keep track, generally pretty well, of who I've spoken to, what we've spoken about, how it's been presented to me, and how I've overcome it. And I can generally do that across multiple people. How I can do it, I have no freaking idea. Right? But generally I can go, I know who you are. You're the one who's repeated, and then I'll even remember how many times. 8 times that we can use the phases of the moon. Sit down, shut the F up, and then let me talk to this other person who's a complete see you next Tuesday. You, I've already dealt with 8 times. Do you know what I mean? I'm generally quite good at keeping track of it. But in this particular instance, it got to the end of the 8 hours, and I know I knew I'd rounded out because I wanted to satisfy my wife, who was like, come on, it's a bit late. And I'm like, yeah, it's past midnight. And just kind of, round out the show. But then that particular bit, which was right near the end, never got resolved. In other words, I never got him to say, well, I know you've never brought up anything other than the sextant, but I want to appeal to this thing that predates the sextant, and me go, well, that's you needing to do that, not me, when you say I'm wrong. In other words, resolve that issue. And it never did. So I'm like, oh, because like these things do, when you've got about 30 different people coming at you from 30 different angles, you kind of want to bring all of them to a satisfying conclusion. And that irritating see you next Tuesday in particular didn't. He's one of those that will just spew out a baseless assertion, and no amount of sometimes trying to stop the event to say, I can reasonably cut this now conversation that's gone in a circle 5 or 6 times short to deal with the white knight that's coming in from the sidelines. The other examples would be a guy that was kept heckling, affirming the consequent, which is what it amounts to, heckling. Right, he's heckling me with affirming the consequent when I'm describing an elevation angle measurement. And at some point, I get to it and, bring it to a conclusion. After a couple of sentences with him, I figure out that I suspect, I don't know, I've got to call his bluff, that he doesn't even know what that actually means. It's some buzzwords he's heard either me or someone else say. And by chance, he just wants to suggest that something I'm claiming fits within that fallacy, even though he doesn't really know what the fallacy is. So he's just heckling with it to sound smart. So that got resolved because after, an hour and a half later, I'm like, describe what an affirming the consequent is. you don't actually know. And again, he's just another person that you put under your belt as having been dealt with. So yeah, but listening back to that particular one, it just sounds like I'm misrepresenting the guy intentionally and cutting him off intentionally, which I am. As soon as he starts suggesting that he's appealing to antiquity, I'm like, I just shut him up and call him a swear word, because I'm trying to I don't want him to reiterate the point. I want him to admit that that's not a point I've made, because he's only talking to me to justify him saying I'm wrong, if that makes sense. But after 8 hours, you can't resolve everything, which is frustrating, because you're like, if somebody was really sharp, they'd pick up on that and go, you're kind of misrepresenting him here. But with every other scenario that occurs, it doesn't matter if I seem to be doing something that's like they would do, like misrepresenting. There's other examples, but it gets resolved to the point where I see why that's been done in that way. It's either to hold a mirror up to their bad behaviour, it's to demonstrate their ability to lie or deceive, or their ability to whistle past a flat earth measurement, whatever it is that I'm, behaving to them in a particular way. In almost every instance throughout those 8 hours, they all get resolved. It's a bit like, it's a good word I've used actually, resolved, because in music, when you hit a certain series of notes, there's an expectation for something to resolve the piece of music, to let you breathe out after you've heard it. And if you don't get that, it's a bit like I described with theatre, with alienation. It makes you feel uncomfortable. So that's what I feel when there's certain things like that that haven't come to the fruition that I was gearing it towards. You know what I mean? Anyway, other than that, it was a very good 8 hours. Nothing's ever perfect, though, is it?
No, but would antiquities have proven that they were honest? No.
No, but he's saying I'm wrong, and what I've described up until that point is Sextant's acquisition of horizontal baselines. Someone else has bought a theodolite, it's been brought back to zero. He's like saying, no, we can use zenith. And then I'm like, that's after me asking him why I'm wrong. And he's like, well, we can go to antiquity where... And I know what's coming, and I don't want him to now make it seem like he's got an argument when he's using this as a justification for saying I'm wrong, when my examples to that point have only been with the horizontal, as in tools that are requiring horizontal baselines, 0 degrees on a theodolite, through the horizontal of a mirror on a marine sextant, whatever it may be. There's been nobody's brought up any astrolabes, or nobody's dangled any plumb bobs at that point. So therefore, all he's doing is misrepresenting me, rather than saying, I'd like to debate you on a point that you've made by suggesting that we can only acquire these things with the horizontal, when at that point that's correct based on the examples that have been given. Because then you go like, okay, well, what are you going to now suggest, that there are ways of acquiring it from zenith? Well, of course there fucking are. But I haven't suggested them or brought them up to make me wrong about them. So, like I say, that's something that I wanted to be resolved and isn't. Therefore, I'm just cutting him off and calling him a cunt. In the mind's eye that doesn't see it get resolved, because it doesn't. At no point does he say, well, I know you're not saying about these items. You're like, that gives me my chance to rip his head off. Well, how is this a justification for saying I'm wrong then?
Yeah, you can't get them all, but I think you get 99% of them pretty good.
Yeah. And again, because it's in my mind only going to go out to members, that's I'm going to trim out a section of the endless recordings that I make and go, shoosh, there we go. that bit. It's not done as a show, right? It's just been hacked out of my recordings. So there's no introduction from me. But by the time I'm thinking I'm going to be turning this into something, I'm doing an outro. So at which point you're like, I know I've been completely relaxed in what I'm doing. Hence, I'm not in the slightest bit concerned about yelling, swearing, abusing, ridiculing, mocking, having a demonstration of total disrespect for them. Because that's how I legitimately feel towards them. Like when they say, when you want to explain that you've got a flat earth, Nathan, how do you... And I immediately stop them and go, no, I'm not answering any of your questions. I don't have any respect for you. I'm only here because it's essentially something I need to do to keep the bills paid. I've got to entertain my audience. I want to keep retention of my members. and hopefully acquire a few more, because the book still hasn't come out, you know. And if I've managed to avoid doing any e-begging campaigns for two and a half years, I don't want to ruin it now. So it's like, well, I can do other things, right? Admittedly, at my sleep detriment. But when it's really hot and you're not sleeping anyway, you kind of think, well, it don't matter if I go to bed at midnight. Oh, I haven't slept for 2 or 3 days anyway, because it's so freaking hot. So what difference does it make? If anything, I'm in a worse mood. So that's a good way of just, you know, dishing out the disdain on a bunch of twats. Because I've hardly slept and I'm in a foul mood. Yeah, you might as well deal with the monsters and arseholes of some random server if you're in a foul mood. But I'm kind of glad.
Probably a lot of good material there, Nathan. I did get to listen to like 4 hours of that. Those guys they've got a crush on you for some reason, and listening to some of them is it's pretty comical. Some of their, you know, like weak insults, because they really don't have anything else, because they can't kind of rebuke or, you know, deny reality as far as the plane, so they kind of twisted. But then their tactic was to try to come at you, whether insulting the book or microphone shaped like, you know, the penis thing. Weak character. But it was wonderfully handled. You know, it was a room full of hyenas.
Would you not agree?
Yeah, it was. I made it for 4 hours. I got to go back and try to finish it, because I want to finish the rest of it. But yeah, it was handled very well by you as far as the reaction, I thought. And yeah, they got a thing for you or something.
Well, it's other than the language. So I'm glad that you've said you liked it first, but the language is like that because, I mean, I'm not trying to explain or justify it. That's just me when I'm dealing with cunts, right? That if someone was like, well, you need to be less blue, like, nah, when in Rome, right? I'm just going to be how I am and how I feel towards them, and use the language I feel appropriate is appropriate for the circumstances. And in that case, you know, disdain comes out of me in foul language. Now, I'm not going to try and temper that if I'm in a very natural way trying to go through the process and the motions of old school debate. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, will the end product achieve what I want it to achieve, which is a demonstration that at the point I'm saying there is no debate, how does that stack up when you're thrown in the pit with people who are like, well, he might say there's no debate, but that just because he won't debate doesn't mean there isn't one, or something like that. It's a preemptive way of overcoming people who say, well, just telling us that there's no debate doesn't mean that there isn't one. It's like, no, but me going in and showing people with their own use of flat earth measurements how and why there is no debate. There is no debate because you've just measured Earth flat to have this so-called argument you're asking to have me, even though I've told you there is no debate, therefore I'm not going to be answering any questions. I will tell you what's what when you attempt to make points anyway, in spite of me saying no. It's contrived because I'm there to say no. It's like, you came in here. So I if dissected, I understand that, you know, you can very easily violate the suspension of disbelief while I'm saying to them, no, I'm not going to debate you. So why did you come here? But nobody's picked up on that. Right, they're not smart enough to pick me apart on my own nonsense narrative if I'm suggesting there's no debate. They'd be like, if that was true, you wouldn't need to be here, would you? Right? And I'd have to answer, well, yeah, you're right. They'd be like, well, why are you here? Then I'll be like, because I'm really poor. But I'm going to try and justify it by saying it shows how, when there is no debate, what happens when people try and debate you. That was quite concise, wasn't it? But in reality, it's just justifying YouTubing and producing material, as that was your opener. And that is legitimately the main reason, right? People keep saying to me, it's not just 2 or 3. Normally, when I get to 2 or 3 of anybody suggesting something, I take it seriously. I'm like, okay, this is genuinely a common representation of at least a few people, right? A lot normally when it's 2 or 3. Well, when it's half a dozen, then a dozen, you're like, ugh. People really want to see me be whipped as a lion. in the three-ring circus. You know,
Yeah.
oh God. What? Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, that's it. They were just happy that you were back on the circuit. I mean, Rob was overjoyed. They take pleasure in this. I don't know. Maybe they're sadists, but they were just happy that you were out debating again, as if you were.
I've already made this comparison a few shows back with the Taylor Swift song when she's singing about some obsessive fan who's going on about how evil she is and how much they hate her. I also gave the other example where it's some chick on Mastermind and she's asked what a specialist subject is, and she says, the life and times of my ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. You're like, yeah, I get the whole concept of people loving to hate you. They see me as a villain, yeah, but a villain that's like the villain that everybody loves, like the anti-hero almost. Yeah, I think for flat earthers, I'm an anti-hero, and for glurfs, I'm just the evil Bond villain, ruining everything for them. Stroking some frickin' white cat.
It might be that too, but I don't know, for some reason, like, remember Rumpus? Rumpus just loved to go back and forth with you. When he was kicked out, he wandered around aimlessly. They just want to be in an argument. It's like the fart-sniffing flat earthers. They just want to be in an argument. They don't care about the outcome. They just want to be there engaging.
I just want to get involved.
Yeah, it's weird. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here. I'm a bit dried out, so it's been 3 or maybe even 4 really nice days here in the UK, like exceptionally nice days. And it gets very hot in this particular apartment, or flat as we call them, and therefore I've dried out, having not drank enough, clearly, and my throat's starting to dry out. So I had to preempt all of the guys in the panel to maybe help me out if I do end up losing my voice halfway through the show. But other than that, things are looking up, things are peachy. Happy days are here again. How are you all? Are you also all coming to the end of a beautiful week?
Everything is roses.
Well, that's very good to hear. I'm delighted to hear it. Do you think we'll get through all 10 of the Feast of Nonsense questions that are remaining on the list?
Depends on the question, right? What's left?
Well, I mean, you can start them straight away if you want to.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Okay. I don't mind. It takes the pressure off me if you're all reacting to these questions. So, Bedford level, I know that was the 40s. Gyroscopes was the last one. No, astrolabes from yesterday was the last one. So, no parallax with the stars is number 41 on the list. No parallax of the stars. Actually discussed
What
this.
is parallax?
Isn't that the supposed movement? Sorry, Nathan.
No, I want you guys to answer. You go ahead.
Isn't that you gotta forgive my knowledge on that. I'm probably still learning, but isn't that like their side of saying that there is movement to the stars, or am I not correct about that? But that's what they're trying to say from that heliocentric.
I'll put it to you in the best way I possibly can to represent what I think the flat earthers are saying, right? So, correct me if I'm wrong from the comment section, if you will, right? But I hope I understand the position from what I call anti-globers. The notion is that if all of the stars move in unison, they're at varying distances based on Copernican, Keplerian, Huygens scales and distances, then we should see something called parallax, which is best described if you were to look out the side window of a car, right, as you're travelling along with some landscape in the near foreground, or the guardrail in the near foreground, and then a set of, fields that have got poppies growing in them. And then beyond the poppy fields, you've got some hills in the distance. Yeah. As you're travelling along, what's closest to you appears to be moving at a rapid rate. What's in the mid-ground will appear to move at a slower rate, and what's in the background will hardly be appearing to move at all. Well, the difference between the two, or three, is the parallax. And the suggestion of a flat earther would be, as we look out to the Keplerian and Huygens scaled distances, we see no differential between these lights in the sky, which are at massively varying distances. Now, as I've given that summary, I will put my two pennyworth in terms of useful methodologies, one of which being the celestial sphere, shout out to refracted curvature, that is ultimately violated the moment you set any scale distances to something that is practically applied with a suggestion of infinite distance. That is to say, when you're measuring a navigation star with respect to its position and your position, all you are actually presented with is a glorified protractor with 0 and 180 being the two extremes of angles of potential view, 90 being zenith. Well, with that in mind, when you're plotting out positional information with stars and with an understanding that the angle to that star remains the same regardless of you raising in elevation to measure it, would mean that the only practical way you can describe that system, that's the celestial sphere, is with the stars having an infinite distance. And ergo, because heliocentrists, in a world where we have to refute these garbage, outlandish claims, are suggesting that there's a ascribable distance scaled by Huygens. If you don't know what Huygens did, he takes a flat Earth measurement of minimum elevation angle to Polaris for a flat circular radial value and superimpose it onto a light in the sky called Venus, and then measures its transit of the sun to scale with Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion the distances to all the lights. Well, with that in mind, we've got distances that are varying, therefore parallax. I think I've done a pretty good job, but hopefully someone can take up the reins from here.
Isn't that the same thing as proving non-existent, like the Earth is not spinning?
Yeah. It's kind of anti-fluff, anti-globe in that regard, because it's saying you, with the burden, say that we've got distances that vary when you scale these lights with Huygens and Kepler and Copernican globe motion, right? When you've got that as the assertion, as the positive claim, you have somebody refuting a positive claim that hasn't been successfully substantiated by suggesting that they need to refute it. Well, rather than looking at the origin of the claim, in this case, flat Earth measurements to create all of these systems, it's like, well, no, having a ball turn in a motion around the sun in this particular instance to cause parallax that's not there whistles straight past the flat Earth prerequisite measurements that create the system. And if you identify the flat Earth measurements of the surface itself that create the heliocentric Copernican and Huygens scaled system, then you don't need to argue about the system. Earth's measured flat. Of course it's not a ball moving around the sun. That mathematics is created with these here measurements from a flat Earth.
Well said. Correct. Next.
Has nobody else got anything on that parallax? It's measuring angles, right? Even the description itself, just to round that out, right? You're describing differential angles. It's a flat Earth prerequisite measurement. Like everything, right? If we're talking about this with respect to Earth, we're measuring angles from a planar surface. That's all this is. It's just a flat Earth measurement.
You, real quick, Nathan, you said that he was comparing the size of Venus and the transition to describe a distance. Is that correct?
Yeah, because you can scale it. If you can say that Venus has the same radial value as the sun, you can then compare how many radii of Venus fits into the sun. And with Kepler's third law, you already had the the mechanics of the system through Kepler. He just doesn't give you distance because nothing in the system itself scales it. So you can put Kepler's mechanics at any distance. You could have the sun really close or really far away. And throughout history, although I'm not particularly genned up on this particular bit, people have, this is more of a Jeranism thing that I didn't pay particular close attention to because I didn't care, but throughout history, people have set the distance to the sun at various different stages, at various different distances. It's only in relatively recent times that we've come up with the convention of an AU, or astronomical unit, based on Huygens scaling Venus and its transit, with Venus being scaled with Earth's radial value. Earth's radial value being the most important bit, a flat Earth measurement. So this all stems and originates from a flat Earth measurement, bastardized into sphericity, and then put in mathematical motion around the sun in an elliptical orbit that is then scaled by Huygens assuming Earth has the same radial value as Venus. Actually, the vice versa of that. Venus has the same flat Earth measured radial value as Earth. Like Willy Wonka. Strike that, reverse it.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, thank you for the explanation.
But it's feast of nonsense, because based on, if you ignore how flat Earth must be measured to create a radial value, to ascribe it to Earth, for it to be put into motion around the sun, to be then put into elliptical motion around the sun, to then have Huygens come and say, I know, Venus is the same size as Earth, right? You can then, with that all in tow, and an ignorance of the flat Earth prerequisite measurements, say, well, there should be parallax in this system that we will only ever debate about spherically. So every flat earther that's led to this shite is essentially being trained and disciplined in arguing in the contrapositive for sphere belief. That's not a flat Earth suggestion. In fact, it's ignoring the base foundations for the claim to begin to suggest that you need to refute the claim, back to Neil's point, that is in essence upon them to substantiate. It's their burden, not yours to debunk, especially when in an attempt to debunk it, you can only acknowledge, embarrassing as it may be, that you've ignored how flat Earth's been measured in the first instance to even have this stupid argument about lack of parallax, and ignore what the measurement of parallax would entail, flat Earth prerequisite angle acquisition and the differentials thereof. So ignore how the system we're saying doesn't have parallax works based on flat Earth measurements, and ignore the measurement after the fact that we're saying doesn't happen as being a flat Earth measurement also.
Yeah, I would say you're definitely continuing the argument when you're going down that path for them, for that side, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, next. Time-lapse star trials show the stars making perfect circles around the North Star. What is the? Someone's going to have to fill me in what this is actually supposed to be suggesting. Why is this a flat Earth claim / globe debunk / feast of nonsense conspiracy? Who cares? Am I missing something?
It could tie into some of the Freemason stuff in the Taurus field, and if you've heard any of that and some of that symbolism.
I mean, I'm going to guess that this is alluding to a suggestion that, like with the parallax suggestion, there should be a difference in the movements rather than just perfect circles. There should be a difference as the things, lights in the sky, claim to be soil, are moving at different rates, or claim to be second law of thermodynamics violating, gases not expanding into volumes, whatever. The lights should be moving at different rates rather than just in a perfect circle. Again, this seems like a red herring to distract away from what the stars have afforded us in terms of descriptions of Earth and its surface. The expansion of the known territory has come by way of navigation with stars. The system itself that's inferred on the globe, that's the lines of latitude that go down it, getting ever increasing as you measure an ever decreasing angle to the horizon from Polaris when you measure it with a flat Earth angle. That's a system that utilizes a specific star, in this example, this very example, Polaris, to convolute it into a situation where we need to be explaining on a globe or on a flat Earth model that we'll be told that we need to present out of our asses when we're the common man who found out that the world isn't spherical. Like, why do we care about some outgoing religion and how it isn't that? If you leave the Scientology cult, you shouldn't be constantly reaffirming how the world isn't what the Scientology community say it is. Go out and experience the world for what it really is, and for people for what they are, rather than telling the whole world about how the representation of Scientology isn't correct. Move on. The same applies to heliocentrism. We aren't moving on if we're constantly affirming how spherical the world isn't. And this, to me, is another suggestion, like with the parallax suggestion, that we should be pointing out how, in a false dichotomy, the world is not globe-shaped. The false dichotomy being the world is globe-shaped versus the world isn't globe-shaped. Which is what we've all done for 10 years, right? I mean, it's not like I'm going to be embarrassed about my progress to this position, but to identify it is to live it, and to understand how you've whistled past, as is the case with most of these feast of nonsense examples, flat Earth prerequisites to get you here. Right, circles, you say, in the sky? Yeah, we're measuring those positions above the land that we've tracked in the almanac and can track for the next 10,000 years or something ludicrous. We know exactly where those stars are going to be over the land at a given time. So with that information, you can then track your position and triangulate your exact location on the land with triangles, flat Earth prerequisite elevation angles. Again, back to, as you measure them, if you go up in altitude, the angle remains the same. Hence, you end up with the infinite distance ascribed to the celestial sphere when describing essentially a parallel plane and sky. When you measure a light over here on a flat sky from this position, it gives you this angle. When you measure a light over here on that same flat sky, it will, from your position, appear to be on the horizon. It's not, it's above a piece of land over here, and we know exactly where it is above. So with that information, we can find our way around the world on a flat plane with flat planar measurements of angles to these lights that, move in a circle. Who gives a shit? It wouldn't matter if they were do-si-doing in a figure of 8 all day long. They'd still, if we had the systems, notwithstanding that we'd obviously have to attract them in the way we have, to know where they're above at a given time. And we do, regardless of their movement. So it seems like a red herring distraction away from the critical importance of measuring Earth flat, to use these lights to navigate the territories and expand them as we have in our recent history. So it's just feast of nonsense like most of these things. Anything else anybody wants to add about the circling lights around Polaris? No? I'm glad you're all so keen. Right. Oh man, this couldn't be phrased better. The Bolivian salt flats are missing curvature. Man, you couldn't make up the phraseology, could you?
Wait a second. The Bolivian salt flats are missing curvature?
Yeah, so it even takes the most prerequisite of prerequisites when it comes to asserting flatness. In this case, they're called the Bolivian salt flats because they've been measured. The rise over the run, the deviation of the land, topographically speaking, is measured from the horizontal in linear miles. And we can say, after measuring Earth flat with linear miles, there is very little deviation from the flat linear miles we measure Earth with in the vertical. Ergo, we'll call them flats. What's that you say? So there's a lot of missing Earth curve? Way to wire everybody hearing this into the automatic assumption that A, there should be curve there, and B, it happens to be missing. So we should see Earth curve. This is too far, too much flat. How flat do we know how it is? Well, we've measured it from horizontal with linear miles. How flat is how much deviation in the vertical from the horizontal measured in linear miles. So we had to measure it flat in linear miles from sea level with a horizontal plane of reference to tell you how flat the topographical deviations in that particular area are, in spite of the fact that the entire surface of every plotted and measured known topography of any land anywhere has been measured from sea level, a common reference. All land topographical deviations are measured with respect to a flat plane. This particular area is very close to the plane of reference we use for everything anyway. But if we can ignore that Earth had to be flat for a common reference, and that we measured the distance linear in miles, and then got millimetre accurate deviation in the vertical from a perpendicular plane of reference measured accurately in miles, we can say that there's missing curvature. You see how we've been wired to ignore all flat Earth prerequisites in favour of suggesting how non-spherical things are. It's crazy programming. We've been led to do this, right? We've been brought into an arena where certain arguments are given prevalence. This is no different to the Bedford level example, right? Lead them into a cognition that says there should be Earth curve here, but there isn't. Go out and tell people how little Earth curve there is on a measured, flat plane with very little deviation from the planar measurements of linear miles over a given plane of reference to a plane called sea level that's been referenced and averaged to mean sea level. What's that? Not enough curve? Clever trick. We all fell for it though, eh?
Oh, God, this list is making me feel real stupid. It's making me say, like, how do we miss all of this? Even the Bedford level. Bedford level, hello? Oh, boy.
Yeah, how do we know how many miles the canal is? Do we need to measure it in linear miles?
My goodness.
How high are we off the canal? We're perpendicular to a plane of reference, are we, for this height?
Now I know why this is bothering them so much. It's bothering me, not catching it. So you know how it destroys them. That's why they're so, when it comes to measurements, like you could talk about anything. Gravity, Coriolis, no problem. But measurements, oh boy, it gets under their skin.
Okay, next. We've got the sun shrinks smaller as it sets. Now, I've said that in exactly the phraseology that it's been presented to me. And to be perfectly honest, I don't actually have an issue with this beyond the phraseology, right? The sun can be demonstrated to decrease in angular size as it recedes towards the horizon. But what we're describing is, before we go on, flat Earth elevation measurements of the sun with respect to a planar surface, if we're going to ascribe it that. Flat Earth descriptions of angular resolution limitation and decrease from a plane of reference. So that's what we're describing. So after we've measured Earth flat and compared angular resolution limits, basically it's the same as the parallax example, right? We're measuring Earth flat to describe these angular differentials. It's just a different type. It's not a differential like that. It's a differential like that, as something is suggested to be receding away from you by flat earthers who ignore the prerequisites. Number one, the sun's over land over here when it reaches that point, like I described with the star. Okay, so it's still over other bits of land. Yeah, where it's daytime. Like we've derived this convention called time from this light. Yeah, we also use it in mapping. If it's not there, we get chronometers so that we know our position. So that's how we utilize this light, measuring angles off a flat plane. That's how we do it. Let's ignore all of that and say when we measure the decrease in perceived angular resolution or the angle of the sun, we can suggest that that means it's going away in a local system. What the hell is the sun? Scratch that. Who cares? We measure Earth flat with it. We've derived several systems, longitude, time, from this light. Yeah? We know its ground position with respect to a plane, right? What's that? It gets smaller. okay, it's almost like that opens the door for somebody to put a filter on it and go, actually, I can make the light so it doesn't change size. Check it out. So that makes you wrong. Wrong about what? How non-globe shaped it was. How that isn't a Terminator line producing distance sun scaled by Huygens and Kepler, when that's also reliant on flat Earth measurements to have that argument too. Yeah, you're measuring the sun with flat Earth prerequisite angles. That's it. You don't need anything else. That's it. What else do you need? To have this discussion in any capacity, we must measure Earth flat. End of discussion. Anybody got anything else to add to that? Sun gets smaller. Anyone? Well, there must be someone. I've got to grab my iPad and look at the next thing in the list. You'd hope the conversation would continue. Clearly not. Fair enough. Next. We only see, presumptive, one side of the moon. We only see one side of the moon.
Okay.
Okay, here's my first question in response to Flurfs who make this argument. Again, this would have to be broken down to me how this has any meaning. It's a bit like in the 8 hours of debate I did over on Worldwide Debates a couple of days ago, right? Some guy keeps interjecting, saying something about moon phases, and I'm like, and? Why are you telling me this? We've got moon phases, yeah, and? It's like, well, yeah, well, how do you explain it, Flurf? I'm like, I don't. I've got no reason or call to explain this. Does it have a practical application? And upon being asked, does this have a practical application, the only one that this gentleman could come up with was the suggestion it made me look stupid when I didn't explain the phases of the moon. This is similar. Like, what purpose does this have precisely? I mean, if you can lay it out for me, I'd be intrigued to know why a Flurf would be making this assertion. You tell me, Neil. Do you know? One side of the moon? It's an assumption that there isn't another side of it. What is it? Does it have two sides? Is it like a coin? Because we've got libration, you say. Okay, what causes that? Is it because it's a physical entity? Prove it. Oh, you can't. So it's just a light in the sky. Libration is a description of what it does. The inference of sphericity that you can infer is not a validation of sphericity. I don't know if it does have another side. What's that? We travelled around it in a mathematical derivation of an orbital motion. Well, that's derived from flat Earth measurements of the surface level and altitude perpendicular to sea level. That's definitely not going to mathematically create a sphere world to put in motion around the sun, to be scaled by Huygens, to suggest that fart-sniffing 12-year-olds who want to be Superman flying around in the ISS can scale the distance to the moon to travel to it. No, Huygens just deciding that Earth, when its flat measurement of radius can be superimposed onto Venus to scale the entire system, so we know the distance to the moon. No, we definitely don't. That's a flat Earth violating prerequisite that you're talking about mathematically, that's been derived 500 years ago by the Roman Catholic Church to better understand things like epicycles, in the case of elliptical motion. That's what it's for. Better understanding why the lights move the way they move in a mathematical convention. Not that you can reify. That doesn't mean we're on a sphere actually moving around the sun. It's just some maths. You know, assuming that Venus has got a spherical radii? What? No, it's definitely only got a flat measurement. So you can't put it into spherical movement unless you want to pretend that you're at Earth's alleged core making this maths possible, but you're not. Nobody's standing on a bifurcation of a sphere derived from flat Earth measurements in a motion that's been invented around the sun. That's not possible. That's a reification beyond the physical and measured surface of our flat Earth. It's utterly ludicrous to think that that's implied by these 500-year-old mathematicians when fart sniffers believe that we're going to the moon with these distances. I mean, I just think it's stupid. We're measuring Earth flat to get them, so they're preposterous in terms of their inability for me to reify them. I've been alienated from these reifications. At some point in my life, before I recognised the violation of flat Earth prerequisite measurements used to create these mathematics to give us, for example, a distance to the moon to suggest that Keplerian orbital motion can be applied to it, was violated, that is to say, I was alienated from that information when I discovered the flat Earth that it was based on, undermining my ability to suspend disbelief that men could be in tin cans flying around a ball Earth. There is no ball Earth. There's flat Earth measurements of flat radii that you can mathematically convert into a sphere, but you'd have to be standing in it for orbital motion to be functional. Yeah? That's how it works. As an example, this. If you look at where latitude's terminating in this diagrammatical example, it's terminating in the centre of the ball. This is what orbital mechanics is reliant upon, a bifurcated sphere Earth with you standing at the centre of an equatorial plane. That's how it works. In this particular depiction, that being surrounded by the infinitely distant celestial sphere and celestial plane. You're always standing on a plane. I mean, it's got to work with the flat measurements that I keep pointing out these are based on. Like I say, that's why I've been alienated from the belief of being on a ball. No, I can't be on a ball. In a ball in the maths, right? Because you fart-sniffing dweebs that think you're flying to the moon can reify being in the ball for your orbital motions. You in the ball there, fart-sniffing dweeb 12-year-olds? No, you're not. But that's why I've been alienated from this overgrown, fart-sniffing 12-year-old boy fantasy about orbital motion. Yeah? We're not in a ball. Yeah? In spite of 500-year-old mathematics from the Roman Catholic Church suggesting that we are, to better explain epicycles in elliptical motion from Kepler, or scales from Huygens that require you be in a ball. We're not. But we are on the flat plane that's measured and depicted in the ball. You can describe the flat Earth measurement in this instance of the star, labelled as latitude, if you understand implicitly that this is a flat plane that you're standing on to measure this angle with respect to the surface. Those are the prerequisite angles that have alienated me from the idea that I can say, well, the maths works in a ball, but I can still pretend I'm on one. I can't. I just can't do that. No amount of understanding better the mathematics of being in a ball will allow me to fantasise about having a distance to the moon, scaled by Huygens. I'm done now, Neil.
No, Nathan. Earth is flat because we only see one side of the moon. If we were on a globe and spinning, we'd see the other side, Nathan.
Is that the argument? In sincerity, is that what flatties are doing? I'm out of touch with the sniffing flat earthers, I'm afraid.
I'm assuming, right? That's why they would say it.
Okay. I mean, I hope all of these videos are being turned into shorts, right? I'm up to Wednesday, trimming out all of them. So there's 60 of them. I think I'm up to whatever. I got 40, and the 5 or 6 that have come in the shows after Wednesday haven't been trimmed out yet. But I'm hoping that I'll snag 40 or 45 or maybe 50 of these and turn them into little shorts videos so that the rhetoric can be digestibly updated for anybody who comes across them. So if you happen to come across one of these videos that's a shorts video by me explaining flat Earth prerequisite measurements incorporated into old school feast of nonsense flurf garbage, share them. Pass them on to people. People will gobble them up because at least at surface or face value, they seem to be related to old school flurfing. Like the one I trimmed out today was about Bedford Level. So you get that video and you go, Bedford Level. Num num num. I can talk about my flurfing. This will affirm my belief in a flurf. Well, when you get me saying this is garbage, it's the originator of seeing too far. You're like, what are you talking about? The distance is measured flat, the altitude's perpendicular. What are you babbling about? You've got several flat earth measurements that you need to appeal to before you start looking at boats going along a canal and then applying sphere earth mathematics derived also from flat earth prerequisites. What are you bloody doing? But if you can share that shorts video with somebody who might slightly open their eye a bit wider when they go, oh my god, oh yeah, there's loads of flat earth measurements before I need to worry about bloody boats going up canals in the middle of England. So yeah, share my shorts if you come across them. Any more for any more?
Got somebody keep popping in. You got to keep timing them out, complaining about your language the other day.
So what people
and your
were moaning
graphic
about me?
description of raping men.
Really? I complain about people sending the police round to me, reporting me to social services, giving me, I shit you not, in excess of 30 copyright strikes in 11 years. People constantly reporting my videos to YouTube and suggesting that I've violated YouTube policy. And you bunch of fucking snowflakes want to moan about my cunting language, do you? Oh, you bunch of pathetic little beaters and gammers. I mean, when I say I moan about it, I mean I'll occasionally mention these facts that cunts send the fucking police round. Do you know what I'm talking about, Neil?
Yes, I do, and it's they're challenging. In other words, I gave my heart to Christ in '96, and I live for God. But to sit here with you while he says that I'm a fake Christian, you know what bothers me? A scumbag that gave another scumbag my phone number, and I get phone calls on a freaking Tuesday night. That's a scumbag.
This is the contrast. We endure the most severe types of harassment known to man. We are stalked and harassed. False police reports and social services reports made about us. We are alleged to be beating our wives and our children. That's what we have to suffer, right? And we're supposed to just, turn a blind eye, get on with our day, not moan about it, while the snowflakes we deal with are so offended to a bit of bad language. That's what we're really talking about. Now, I'm of the opinion now, having done this for quite a few years, that my rich vocabulary is not going to be apologised for anymore, right? If I have an air of disdain, like now, that makes me want to use a particular piece of my verbal expanse, then I will. Yeah? Now, if it offends your snowflake ears because you're a Christian, so am I. Having given my heart to Jesus doesn't mean I can't use the fucking words that are in my mouth. I will still use them. That doesn't alter my affinity to a Christian faith. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean anything. It just means I've got an expansive vocabulary. And sometimes certain words are used to elicit an effect, to gauge or gain a reaction from people. They're done to be what's the word when you're trying to induce a reaction, when you're trying to make a more substantive point by punctuating it with a what's the word?
Instigate.
Can't hear what you're saying.
Instigate.
No. My point is, the language I use is sometimes grating intentionally. Yeah? Now, there's plenty of YouTubers out there, and I've got to obey YouTube rules in terms of the language I use, and that's in flow. Like, there's some points that you can be very verbally flamboyant, let's just say. YouTube will tolerate it. Other times, they change the rules and penalise you in terms of the financial gain that you can get from the platform if you're too blue with your language. Now, at the moment, you probably don't know this if you're not a YouTuber, YouTube's tolerance to language is actually quite good. I can get away with swearing, basically, and I will. It's part of my vocabulary. Now, if this offends you, then fine. I can't control how people are offended. And I get it. Some people would say you're using too much blue language, like the occasional F-bomb, fair enough. But when you're describing by metaphor fisting a man with their own use of flat measurements, then I can understand how somebody might see that as vulgar. But these are the same people that report us to the police and social services claim we are criminals. Yeah, that's what we get. Now, I am going to treat these people with the highest degree of disdain that I can possibly muster, because they're words. That's why I'm calling these people who are moaning snowflakes. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Well, the police can come round and lock me up if they choose to, having been made a report by the easily offended same snowflakes. Like, they're so quick to clutch their pearls and make literal videos declaring how proud they are for having reported me to the police. I shit you not. These people are proud of how beta they are, how they need to appeal to the police to deal with me when I'm not a criminal. I'm a YouTuber. But people still feel that they need to report me to social services, report me to the police, report me to YouTube, copyright strike me endlessly put my financial income in jeopardy. But what, I've got to tolerate you not like me fucking swearing? Tough luck. I'm sick of this. If you don't like my fucking language, piss off and don't let the fucking door hit you on the way out. I will use whatever fucking words I like. Now, if that means I lose a few subscribers because they don't like me being honest about the vocabulary available to me, then good. I will suffer a few more losses because I'm willing to sit in this chair and say, this is how I feel at the moment. When I feel the passion of the rat-tat-tat on a door of a policeman asking me fucking questions he's got no right to ask, simply because a snowflake cuck globe believer has decided that he's going to ruin my day by appealing to real men that they are not, to do a job about their offence about flat earth, which is all this boils down to ever, then I will express my disdain through the most flamboyant language that I can muster naturally without having to self-censor. Why the hell should I stutter my way through this sentence simply because you don't like the fucking language I'm using? I don't like social services calling up, suggesting that I beat the shit out of my kids that I love dearly and homeschool. Every penny I fucking earn goes on treating those kids like angels. That's what I do. That's what my wife does. That's what we do. But yet we've got to answer to some cuck who doesn't like my language or the fact that I point out how flat Earth is measured, phoning them up and going, this man beats his children. I fucking don't. And when I express my disdain about it, I'm not going to pepper my language because some snowflakes' eardrums are easily offended, right? I'm honest. That means being honest with me and how I speak. And when I'm annoyed, I swear. That's normal. That's how most people behave. Now, in this arena, there's plenty to be fucking annoyed about, right? We're surrounded by injustice. Now, I don't want to be seen being too weak by moaning about it too much, but when I hear people bitching about my language, it does get my goat a little bit. Like, have a fucking clue? You have any idea what it takes to be sat here? The kind of shit that I have to put up with to be doing this fucking job? Clearly not. That's why you're moaning about my language, rather than listening to the absolute nuggets of gold laid before you when it comes to flat earth prerequisites we've all ignored for 10 years. And what do I get? You swear. Really? All right, ignore the 10 years of experience. I said this on yesterday's show. When people attack you, they can attack you based on the 3 levels of lowbrow, middle of the road and highbrow information. Attacking me based on my informational conveyance would be to attack me based on me saying Earth's measured flat with an angle and it isn't, and then giving me a decent enough argument to suggest that's not the case. That's attacking the highbrow level that we deal with here. Middle of the road is saying that didn't really happen the way that you say it did, or you haven't done your primary source research well enough about that particular event. You seem to have had informational overload or something because you got it wrong. That'd be middle of the road. But here we are at the bottom of the fucking lowbrow barrel talking about my language. I personally feel, having considered this often, having had it brought up on multiple times, that when I am not tempering my language, I demonstrate the most flamboyance the most passion and the most engagement with the discussion that I am truly passionate about. That's the nature of the reality that we all inhabit. It's the one thing that we all literally share. And I am genuinely passionate about it. Don't beat me up about using the fucking swear words. Who cares? Have you not got anything better to worry about? I assure you, by being in this position, I do. Get a grip.
That's facts.
Well, that was directed, hold on, that was directed towards me. You see, you know, it's always the atheists that say, oh, some Christian. Don't worry about me. I'll stand before God with no problem. Worry about yourself.
Yeah, pull the splinter out of your own eye, or pull the log out of your own eye before you try and attempt to pull the splinter out of your brother's. If you're a Christian saying this shit to me.
That's correct. Exactly. He's not even a Christian. But it's always them. They're always the one. Oh, yeah, some Christian. You hang out. Well, he's literally making sexual comments to men or whatever he said. It's a joke. If you don't understand metaphor, and I know you do, you're not a retard. You're just in pain because your globe got taken away, Buck.
That reminds me, actually, I was going through the shorts videos that I've got, and one of them that I hadn't released for some reason was something to do with Buck. Now you've mentioned his name. What I'll do is I'll search by members videos and I'll let you know what the video is. And if I can find it, I was just trying to find the most viewed members video. It was a very specific stat that I was looking at. I won't bore you with the details. But when I was looking, I came across a video that had Buck's name in it. I know that is basically what I just said 10 seconds ago. Here we go.
As the amount of angular change over distance.
Yeah, distance is flat. Distance is linear and horizontal for you to describe the drop with respect to the distance. So in order for you, Buck, to make this assertion, you need horizontal distance.
I don't need horizontal distance. Are you insane?
Give me a distance that isn't horizontal then. What's the distance measure?
Your words, Buck.
What's an arc?
Stuttery little bitch! Distances are horizontal, Buck. For you to describe a deviation from them with your over distance.
Yes, distance is an arc. You can have an arc distance. You're measuring an arc distance on every single opening of your show.
No, miles aren't arc distances.
Measures an arc distance.
Right, you're saying that the distance derived in your deviation from horizontal with a linear measurement is actually an arc distance.
Are you telling me that?
No, I'm telling you that the distance is flat and linear as per the scales that you apply these distances from.
Distances, your distance.
Oh, Eddabear's come to save you, Buck. Yeah? You need your little dweeb army, don't you, Buck? Yeah, your little dweeb army's come to save you, Buck.
Distances.
Your little dweeb army's come to save you, Buck.
That you're using.
Yeah, Eddabear's come to save you, Buck. Yeah? Eddabear's decided to pile on because you need saving, Buck.
Flat distance?
Yeah, what arc?
Yes, that's correct.
Arc?
There's no arc in distance. Miles aren't arcing.
That's correct.
So how do you get this?
So why are you asking me something? You need a horizontal distance.
Because what you said is wrong, and my question.
Okay, so give me a horizontal measurement of distance that's arcing. Go ahead.
Is the circumference?
Why are you asking me something? I've asked you to give me an arcing distance measurement. Miles don't arc. You're just wrong.
69 miles.
Eddabear's come again. Oh, we've got the little cuck defence team in order. Right, Eddabear's come to help him. The dweeb patrols come to pile on.
About 16 miles per degree.
Oh,
Nathan.
bless you, Buck. Bless you, Buck. You need your little... Now that we can pause these things, I don't like to bite on the White Knight's input, but the 69 miles, that's also a linear mile in statute terms. That's also capable of conversion to the mile measurement along a planar surface when you're describing any acquisition of nautical miles with degrees from stars. So this came upon, again, that 8-hour debate I had a couple of days ago, because there's an assertion from Jesse Path of Light that the radial value used to make a circle of equal elevation can actually be ascribed to bend. And I absolutely destroyed him with his own nonsense assertion that a radius can bend. When we measure Earth flat with radii and ascribe miles in a linear format to those radii. So in this particular instance, we've got the same thing, but with Buck. Buck needs to derive a squared function. That's drop over distance. That's drop over distance. The distance is miles and horizontal, so that you can describe a squared function from the horizontal distance in miles. So what does this mean? It means we've got a fucking horizontal distance measurement of Earth. Earth is measured flat, even for fuckwits like Buck, when they use calculations that derive curve. That's the per mile squared value. Well, the mile is and can only be horizontal to describe this squared function. What's that I hear? No, the miles can bend. Oh, well, how much mile are we going to derive from for the bending of the mile? Oh, we can't. We need a linear function of a mile to derive curve from. That's correct. Earth will and can only be measured flat. In miles, they're linear. Any deviation, that's hills and valleys that you'd measure drop over distance. I know that sounds almost like we're describing Earth curve, but there isn't any. There is drop over distance, distance being the flat Earth we measure in miles, and the drop being hills. Not Earth curve. The inference of Earth curve starts with measuring miles flat. So you can suggest there's a curve deviating from them. And this is me metaphorically pinning Buck's head into the pillow while I fist rape him with linear miles. Now, some people hear me describing in metaphor him being fist raped with linear miles as somehow vulgar. But that's what's happening by metaphor here. You don't have to like it. We patrolled to save you.
I mean, how much more can I?
Just to continue the analogy, and what another man is doing is seeing the blood and going, oh no, I need to help Buck. I need to pull Nathan off him. That's what Edebear is doing by metaphor, and I'm laughing at him for it. Now, again, these are quite vulgar metaphors, but what I'm dealing with is two see you next Tuesdays, both attacking me at once, when all I'm doing is reiterating this man's own use of linear miles. Now, I haven't used them. They are flat, but yet suddenly I'm in a position where two men are attacking me. Now, I'm going to continue to use the metaphor of me being like Neo with a load of Smiths jumping on me and all of them getting fist raped with linear miles that they need. That is to say, I take their own assertions and show them how they require Earth to be measured flat. Now, given the utterly horrendous injustices and treatment that I've received over the years of doing this, I'm going to take the liberty, I'm going to smile a little bit. There'll be an upturned cheek while I describe this so that it mentally stays with them. Yeah, there's going to be people here who go, oh, and clutch their pearls as they hear my metaphor. I couldn't give a shit. What I am doing with all of you, any of you watching who believe in a ball, know, because you've just watched what happens to you when you get involved with me and start suggesting that you can prove a sphere with flat Earth measurements. There's a good chance that the flat Earth measurements you will and can only use will be forcibly rammed up you. Yeah? Now, that's a mental image you won't be able to shake off quickly. I absolutely guarantee it. And it is a very small taste of the shite that you bunch of cunts have decided is justified in putting me through, because I, at the time, believed the Earth was flat. Well, now that we know for sure and without a doubt it's flat, and further to that understanding, we've recognised how flat you bunch of scumbags have been using it flat the whole time, then you're going to get every degree of muster that I can possibly summon when I give you a metaphor about how you've been treated with your own measurements. Because that's all we're really doing. What's the metaphor about? I mean, what's actually happening here? Well, this is linear miles. That's what we're describing. And that's the important bit. Not the fisting metaphor. That's not the most important bit. The important bit is these are flat Earth linear miles. Yeah? The ones that I will ram up you when you use them. Like radial values for circles that we derive latitude with, like distance or altitude perpendicular to sea level, like sea level itself. When you use these things, yeah, you're going to feel them rammed up you by me. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Now, this is a warning, because I'm going to be getting out of the road soon promoting my book. So I'm going to be, hopefully, inviting people to discuss this with me on their platforms if they find it interesting. But I have already preempted that there's going to be a certain number of people along that process that go, I know, I'll seem like I'm being accommodating and then introduce this wanker. Well, if you're that wanker, yeah, just remember what happened to Buck. His head was forced into the pillow and he had linear distance rammed up him violently, didn't he? And that might be you. You might get to enjoy that pleasure if some host comes to you and says, I've got Nathan Oakley coming on. Would you like to get raped by him? Because that's what'll happen.
I say
You don't need to say anything. Horizontal distance measurement is what it is. It's horizontal. It's linear. It's flat. That's what a mile is. That's what a kilometre is. If you're going to describe the distance, you're going to describe it horizontally.
69 miles, Oakley.
Yeah, that's flat.
69 flat miles.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Suck it up, lads. Just bite the pillow hard.
People are stupid.
But I don't care. I'm past caring, right? That's it. That's my point here. When I'm talking about the language and the metaphors, in sincerity, I'm past caring. I'm not going to damage the globe versus anti-globe shite that we've done for the last 10 years. As far as I'm concerned, we're starting fresh about 6 months ago. Yeah? With the outgoing scumbags, I'll treat them however I like. I've earned it. Yeah? I will justify it. If you go, oh, well, you've become the monster. No. That's just how I deal with the outgoing scum who still treat us that way. Let's not beat around the bush here. It's not like these things have suddenly stopped because I've gone, I don't want to engage with these scumbags anymore. They're scum. But we'll hold a mirror up to them. And it's horrifying, isn't it? Yeah? I know what I'm doing, is my point. Now, the language thing is a separate issue in many ways, because that's just who I am, right? I do have an expansive vocabulary, and some of it is swear words. And I would hope that I've at least got the maturity to use them appropriately. It's not like I constantly use the F word unnecessarily. It's not like I use it in between things, like it's a big fucking table or it's a giant fucking ceiling. I don't use it in that way, right? I use it as an emphasis to the disdain I'm feeling when I use it. It's an expression of emotion, not necessarily the F word. Anything that's harsh, vulgar language. It's typically, at least I would hope, by me, used appropriately. Now, when you say, I don't like the metaphor, you're like, why is the metaphor being used? Try to look just slightly below the surface level of the very words if they were laid out on a page. Yeah? Look at the circumstances that surrounding the language, the disdain held towards the so-called opponent who has undoubtedly lied about me, misrepresented me. At the bare minimum, That's at the low end of the extreme. At the other end of the extreme, suggested my fucking children should be taken from me. Hello? I will swear, okay? Stop asking me to stop swearing. Oh, we're right on the hour with that little emotional outburst.
Free speech, baby. Free speech.
Anything else? Anybody? We didn't get to the full. I thought we'd get to the end of the list today. Far from it. I think we got 5. Even when I start right at the beginning of the show, we only get 5 Feast of Nonsense questions done. Where did we get to? Just so I can put a pin in it.
That's my fault. I should have just ignored the comments.
No, I don't mind. No. You don't apologise, Neil, right? You are echoing a sentiment that I'm getting regularly from commenters, right? Now, you might be saying, well, your disdain towards being asked about this is because you feel guilty about it, or, you know, you're trying to cope, or you're just attempting to justify it when it's unjustifiable. And you're like, no. None of those things are true. And secondly, in the same way I've just said to Neil, no, express this to me, I want you to. If you still feel that way, I do want you to express that to me. That is to say, there's plenty of people who can justify where it's been used inappropriately. And that's happened too. You know, I'm not talking to you if you know who you are, and there's several people like this that go, in this circumstance, this analogy or this language was not appropriate for these reasons. And I go, yeah. And I'll potentially try and justify it through embarrassment. I was wound up or upset or whatever. You know, I'll try and offer a ham-handed explanation for where inappropriate language has been used. But I would like to think that 99% of the time, it's appropriate. Just because it's vulgar, yeah? Like, that's how I'm reflecting the behaviour of my opponent. I see their behaviour as vulgar. Now, given that in terms of the retention of these people, I see it as having plateaued over a period of 12 months where we've said, I can't help this, but I just see you as a detriment to the cause that you think there is. Number one, I don't think there is a cause anymore. If you're ever going to practically apply any Earth measurements to anything ever, they'll be flat. Yet you watching this, sorry, but generally speaking, most of the time, you don't actually have any influence over those things. If you were going to have any involvement with those things, you too would just measure it flat anyway. Like, you can't practically apply a globe because the globes come from the practical application of the flat Earth measurements. So it's not going to make any difference to you. And I'm trying to turn my back on the stigma that's attached to me personally, because I've got this badge, Flat Earth. It's like this beacon of you're a Dumbo that I can abuse. That's what it suggests. So as we go, I don't want to deal with that anymore. It's horrible. Yeah? That's not to say that those miserable scumbag behaviours aren't punctuated with some of the most joyous moments that I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like, my kids were born in the period of doing this flat earthing. One of them was about to turn 10. So, you know, it's not like the joy of being able to work from home, watch my kids grow up. That's the main reason for doing this. Like, the discussion I had with my wife was this evergreen subject of flat earth is going to be the ticket to sitting here while the kids are in the next room. They're not, but by metaphor, they could be. Rather than sticking in them some school and watching the state educate them, I'll get to watch them grow up and have that pleasure. And that's meant producing content and enduring scumbags who are societally tolerated to treat us like scum, to treat us like dirt, and get away with it. Like, there's very few communities that people will go, oh, right, so you've had the police called on you. Oh, right, so they tried to take your kids off you. Oh, well. I mean, how many communities can you name where people go, well, what is it? But they're a flat earther, right? Oh, well then, c'est la vie. Like, name one community where people will behave towards you in that way. Like, there isn't any. The people who might have had that sort of scorn directed to them end up being protected groups. Yeah, well, we're definitely not in that category. Yeah, it's just socially accepted. We're almost as low as gingers. It's an outrage. Anyway, anybody got any more comment on this? Fun though it was, for all I'm sure, as I tell off the audience. was going
I
to
think
look.
you covered everything.
Where did we get to? Sun shrinks smaller as it sets. That's a lot of S's. So we have legitimately got 5 or 6 more to do.
It's even funnier the second time you read it out.
Right, I'm going to round out the live show. On that note, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus fans for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Been emotional. Were any of the shorts, or were any of the clips, do you think, there today with the Feast of Nonsense? Were any of them any good or worthy of being trimmed out? Yes, Nathan, I really enjoyed all of them. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy the time-lapse or parallax ones, but I mean, each to their own.
Yeah. I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
I said, do you think I'll get any shorts videos out of those?
Of course. Nathan, you can get short videos out of anything on any show.
I mean, yeah, you can polish up any dog turd.
Nathan, you talking about
dog
the
turds
hyena
coming out
slaughter
of this
video?
Hold on, Neil. Say again, Michael.
Was it?
Were you referring to the hyena slaughter video from the 8-hour video clips out of that? Is that what you were referring to?
Hyena slaughter? That's a new one. What do you mean?
Well, that was that whole thing I listened to with the lion tearing apart those Globers, you know, and that 8-hour. Well, I only got through 4 hours of it, honestly. I got to finish the rest of it, but I thought you
One
were
that
referring
called
to
you
clips out of there.
hyenas.
Oh, by metaphor, one deck said that they were all hyenas being eaten by me, the lion.
Yeah, I said they were hyenas without the bite, though. We're not going to give them any credit for hyenas. They were hyenas in the fact the way they laugh and the way they freaking pile up on you. But they don't have the bite of a hyena.
There is a common thread where when they're pummeled, they start giggling like little girls. Have you noticed that?
Yes, that's why we call them hyenas.
Yeah, but don't the the lionesses do the hunting though?
Yeah, Nathan's a lioness. You didn't know that? He's half woman. He's half black woman.
Transgender lioness, I'll have you know.
Hold on a second. You got to get that straight. The females do the hunting. That's correct. Nathan wasn't hunting. Now, if you watch them shows, when a male lion starts coming towards a hyena, it's because they hurt one of the female in the pride. And when he goes there, he ain't looking to hunt. He's just looking to kill.
So Nathan's just protecting his bitches. Nice.
Has anybody?
No, he's
seen
going
the
there to just
Christopher Walken?
destroy who's ever there.
Has anybody seen the Christopher Walken what?
Scene where he does that lion speech. I think the movie was Who Will Haul Junkies, probably 2002 film.
No, I've not seen that. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, it's a good.
Who was just talking before that? Hold on. Who was that?
Christopher Walken.
You mean me, Amir?
Amir? Is that who you're talking about, Neil?
Whoever was talking before Michael just came in. That's you, Amir?
Yeah, I said I knew.
Oh, I thought you were a baller.
Set off Neil's radar.
I only brought that scene up because it reminded me of the show kind of yesterday. If you watch that clip, it'll kind of make sense, but you'd have to actually go search it out and watch it.
Gotcha.
Well, there's somebody I've seen in Discord that I didn't see before, so I thought it might be him. Who is Phil T?
Don't know. Hello, Phil T. Good to have you. On server.
He's server muted himself.
Yeah, I was going to say he can't hear us.
Did anybody ever see this Phil T guy before?
You remind me of literally Joe Pesci when he's talking to the Robert De Niro character outside a restaurant, and they brought in lip readers, and they're talking to each other from behind hands, and some random stranger walks past them, and he's like, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? What's he doing?"
You gotta be that way. I mean, come on.
I think that's in Goodfellas.
No, that's in Casino with the lip reading.
Oh, is it in Casino?
Who the fuck is this guy?
Who the fuck is this guy? Exactly. What's this guy doing? Who's this guy? And then you see the guys, the cops, watching them. They're covering up again. They're covering up again.
Yeah, he was right, though. Cover your mouth because they're watching us. Zooming in and reading our lips. That's what they do.
Yeah, but I don't know who he is.
Anyway,
I've no
it's
idea.
just the pain that these guys are going through. Like, what caused this certain person to spew that nonsense in the chat? It wasn't what Nathan was using as an analogy, as he spoke metaphorically. It was the fact that he was ripping them apart with measurements. It always goes back to the measurement, and it just freaking annihilates them. So what do they respond to? The language. Like, oh, some Christian. Always atheist, too. And I laugh because I don't got to answer you. And I'll do what I want. If I want to sit here for 8 hours, that's my business. You worry about you. Don't worry about me. It's like, do I go into Jim Pants and say, how dare you people, some of you are Christians, you're allowing this guy to lie to you for 8 straight hours? How dare you? Some Christian you are.
That's where we're gonna get Nathan in next, is Gem Pandas.
No, I'm good. As you mentioned it, so
Tango.
I'm glad you brought it up. So Gem Panda had a section in his Discord server that was called The Children of Flat Earth. And in that section, he had pictures of Flat Earthers' children. I reported him to the police for that.
Why would he have pictures of your children?
I don't know,
or my
but
children?
it is creepy as fuck, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, why? I mean, there are Satanist cults out there. Do you have the children of Satanists there as well? Why Flat Earth?
These people are essentially getting involved with the children of other people's children. That's what they're doing, gathering up data on other people's children. That's what they were doing in that server.
Oh, I know why. Because they consider it abuse if you're teaching your children that Earth is flat. So that's what it is.
Yeah, but there's laws against you gathering up intel on other people's kids. They're not the police. Yeah, but that's what they're doing. Oh, well, we're basically going to be reporting this to higher authorities because we don't like you saying Earth's flat, so we're going to keep an eye on your kids. Yeah. Disgraceful behaviour.
Oh, they got their Batman T-shirts on. They're going to save the world, right? Save the youth.
Yeah, they're here to save my children. Keep the fuck away from my children. Yeah, I've seen Gem Panda. I wouldn't trust him around a dog.
Well, he did have your back on the whole book theft. So, got to give him a little credit.
Don't need anybody to have my book. I tried to explain this on at the end of the 8-hour stream when people started asking me about it. What about this? What about that? Like, what matters here is the circumstances that unfolded. I got stole from. Now, the way I phrased it to them was, then I fired them. Well, that's not strictly true. I gave them a couple of weeks to do the right thing and they didn't. Then I fired them. Right? That's it. So there's no, well, how are you going to justify this? How are you going to justify that? Did this happen? Did that happen? You're like, I was stole from, then I fired 2 thieving bastards. That is it. There's no other discussions. All that's happened after the fact is 2 men that have been fired have tried to justify their existence after being fired. That's it. Or justify what they stole after being fired. That's it. So you're like, when you're asking me about these things or trying to put it in a way that's going to somehow irritate me, you're like, no, you're never going to achieve that. I took action after being stolen from. Now, the fact that they took their ill-gotten gains with them is never going to be an issue for me when I've already turned my back on them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Gem Panda saw it that exact same way. You know, exactly. There was no explaining anything to him. That's the way he's seen it. Exactly the way he described this. So we got to give him a little credit for that.
Not completely stupid. You do realise that I sought out his counsel before starting the show. I asked him what he thought of the idea. So it's not, I don't think he's stupid. Not like we put him in the camp of having an identifiable light shined upon him as being idiotic. We didn't categorise him in that category, did we?
No, but somebody like that is able to have a moral compass when he sees something that's just black and white. Like there's no gray area here. This is what happened, and it's wrong. It's a pity that some people don't see it that way.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, that's right. They got parts in the book, and they got recognized as country singers, and one is recognized as an intellectual, and the other is recognized as.
So what you're saying is, I'm gonna turn my camera on for this. So let's speak down the camera to Betty and Flatsy and Brian, yeah. So what you're saying is, Gem Panda has a higher moral code than you do. That's what you're saying. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Gem's got better morals than Flatsy Klein and Betty Van Velsen and Brian's logic. I mean, it goes without saying that Adam and Quantum Eraser are thieves and were dismissed for stealing. Those are the facts in the matter. They are not in dispute. But as for the people who went around with them after the fact, after it's all died down, the dust settled, and we can assess these things, Gem Panda's got better morals than Flatsy Klein.
Exactly.
It's true, though. What Neil was saying is true, because Panda was backing you up with the book thing.
Yeah, because he's not an idiot. He knew what was going on. They keep close attention to what happens on Flat Earth Debate. So much so that they got a ticker of how long that we won't debate them. You know, when the show's called Flat Earth Debate. But they keep a close eye on what goes on here. So from a distance, keeping an eye on it, they know what went down. It's a shame that people right in this very room do not know what went down. Well, like the story goes, Judas sold out the Lord for 30 pieces of shekel. I mean, think about that. Bothered him after the fact. He actually hung himself. Oh, well, I mean, I don't want anybody to do that, but you did say a few weeks ago that some of these people are going to be coming back.
I think you'll find I put it down as a little wager. I've seen these patterns dozens of times. I've been doing this for years, right? I've also employed people. I had 40 staff under me when I was a recruitment consultant. I know these patterns like the back of my hand, Neil.
Especially when your book starts outperforming theirs.
Yeah, I could pretty much mark the people I know that are going to make their way back. I'll just keep it in my mind so when it happens, I'm like, yep, I was right.
Not that I mind. I've got to be fairly fickle when it comes to Fair Weather Friends on YouTube. Because you're like, well, I just want more subscribers. More subscribers means more ad revenue. So if people come back and they're like, I don't know, 2 years from now, oh, my friend mentioned you. Oh, really? Why is that? Oh, well, he read your book and he's flat earther now, and he was telling me all about how it's measured flat. And you're like, oh, yeah. Now you're back here. Yes, shocking. Fair weather friendship.
Oh.
But this was quite an interesting saga as dramas go over the 12 years. This one wasn't bad. It wasn't the best drama. There have been better dramas. More personal, more salacious.
Whoa. What tops being ripped off by your closest associates? Is there something that tops that?
Yeah, you can read all about all of them in the chapter called Betrayal in my upcoming book, Neil.
It's no Othello.
No, there's loads of interesting anecdotes about various things that have happened within the community. Most of them will strike people's hearts more than my turmoil. Like, I know you feel deeply about this, Neil, but if you actually did a little survey and asked people, generally speaking, if they gave it much thought, the answer would mostly be no. Well, oh yeah, I vaguely heard about that, would kind of be the general response as an average, right? But if you mentioned Bob's 15 degrees an hour drifting gyro, I bet you anything that got a more heightened reaction out of them, a more visceral reaction, because suddenly it's their non-rotating belief that's being challenged, and they've got a personal attachment to it. There's a
Right.
So, my personal plight, people don't care. Do you ever hear people say the sentiment, never complain, never explain? Well, that's kind of a suggestion that your plight about things that you see as important to you, most people don't care about. So in the moment, you can drum up some passion for you in the moment, but that's about how long it lasts. So as a good example, right, today I've talked about social services and police and people saying I abuse my kids. You know the score. Well, in the moment when people hear the passion in my voice saying those things, for about 0.1 second, they might have this feeling of attachment to my plight, but it's gone in an instant. You know what I mean? 2 weeks from now, no one will give a shit. It'll be tomorrow's fish wrapping. Like the suggestions that Patricia Steer was a transgender female. Those sorts of things get quickly forgotten about by the people even in the community within a year, even though it's really salacious. And then within 5 years, who's Patricia Steer? Who the hell is she?
I forgot about that. You're right. That Bob thing, that was major drama across many platforms.
Yes, you can read all about that in my book too. My book's going to be so ace. Like I say, it just appeals on many different levels. The salacious drama that's unfolded can be related to if you've lived through it. But from an outsider's perspective, it's just interesting stories of things that tie to flat Earth. And I hope I've done a good job of tying them to actual flat Earth rhetoric and flat Earth demonstrations and prerequisites and evidence, along with the spine and formatting of the housekeeping questions as a history, and the anecdotes of things like Bob and his gyro as the anecdotal, lowbrow, admittedly, information that will keep people reading.
Well, that was so dramatic and left such an effect on people that it was even brought up at his memorial that they had. That whole thing was brought up. What happened with you and him was kind of strange. But yeah, that was major drama.
Yep. And then they had an interloper move in before he died and ended up being the new lover of the widow. Just weird, right? I mean, that in and of itself is bizarre. But that's just another thing that happened in flat Earth over the course of a 10-year period. It's just another weird thing. I mean, in more recent times, you're full of gossip about Jaren. I don't know why I very rarely kept in touch with these people anyway. I mean, I had all of their contact information and still do. So if I need to, I'll drop them a line, right? But I generally don't care. You know more about these people, even though I've got a direct contact with them, than I do. I don't care about them most of the time. But suddenly I'm hearing about
just found out the other day.
Wives and things.
I met with somebody.
Yeah, but he's obviously interested in those people because I would assume he had a connection to that particular individual through support. You know, I can only assume that if he was generous to me and there was some other prevalent YouTuber in the arena like Jaren, they would also get support from similar people.
And they screwed him over. That's how the conversation came about. That, because he met me, then he finally meeting somebody that's real in the community, and that's why he sticks around on Flat Earth Debate. That's why he supports you. And he went through the list of people that screwed him over for money. Jaren was one of them.
Really?
He found out that his wife got pregnant from his best friend's, these things you find out. You find out that freaking, what's his name is a womanizer. Married women, chases them around.
Who's a womanizer?
What's his name? The Clues.
Clues?
That is not Flat Earth Clues. What's his name? Sargent.
Mark Sargent's a womanizer?
Married womanizer.
Is that actually
chases
true?
married women and forms all over them.
Did he just date some married woman once?
No. He's been with them at places and meetups, and the freaking conduct is, let's put it this way, Skip just like waved his hand and shook his head. I can't deal with that guy. Married womanizer piece of shit. Every one of them screwed him over somehow, one way or another.
Wasn't he getting it on with that chick that went to Antarctica with Witsit? I forgot her name.
The one with the camel toe?
Yeah, there was this one lady who claimed she was a flat earther that went down there with them. I forgot her name. She was easy on the eyes, but I don't know her name.
Yeah, and he had an interview with her, and then he was laughing because she got into a car accident, Mark Sargent.
Okay. Weird character arcs that these people have. I do vaguely remember
But you're still all right, Mark. We may need you.
Well, the only thing I can think of that relates to that was Orphan Red and some other chick similar age ended up in a kind of mock porno video where there was the three of them in a hotel room, and I think Orphan Red had filmed it and then edited it together to make it look far more salacious than it really was. But ultimately speaking, you're like, well, still Mark Sargent in a hotel room with two chicks who are doing things. Yep. You know what I mean? Well, power to him, he's single. Do what you like. Live and let live. I don't have any issue with this. I can remember being a player. Who cares?
But they don't get outraged about any of that. They only get outraged if you cuss on the internet.
Yeah. Don't fist anybody, metaphorically, Nathan.
Yeah, they've got nothing else to moan about, have they? It's like, what are you going to do? Tell me off for pointing out your own use of flat Earth measurements, or the metaphor of me pointing out your use of the flat Earth measurements. That's what they'll do. They'll attack the metaphor. Of course. Standard fare garbage. Clutch your pearls.
You know how many messages I get from different people mocking the amount of people watching the show.
What do you mean, the amount of people watching the show?
You know, in the chat, I'll get mocked. Only 2 people showed up on your Uncut after show when you release it, but they're there. They're keeping a close eye. I find it funny how they say the channel is dying. Oh, I'm being accused from Roger Ledwell of making this a cult. That's the new thing, right? LVA Paul and Roger, they're having shows about me now, how I made this FED, your channel, a cult.
Yeah, I don't care.
Jesse Path of Light is back.
They're talking about us, right? So they're obsessed with us, not the other way around. Just remember that, Neil. They're making shows about you, not the other way around.
Yeah, they call me a cult leader because I have a moral standard that I keep to.
Do you remember that big expose that was done on Paul, LVA Paul? Do you remember that massive expose they did, like that big show they did?
Yeah, it actually came on the TV.
It was 3 million views, wasn't it?
3.5, Nathan. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I hear these things through the grapevine. Little birdies whisper them. Oh, did you hear what they said about you? You're the reason, and they're challenging you. Challenging me? What? Did I put anything out there? What can you possibly challenge me with? What are you challenging me? On the nature of our reality? Earth measured flat? No, you're supposedly a flat earther who got that. But you did want to go to Antarctica. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's Roger Ledwell. No matter how much we explain to you, like, hello, it don't mean anything. If anything, it's measuring Earth flat. You still wanted to go, dumbass. So, what are you going to challenge me on? A moral code?
Yes.
There's no challenge there. I mean, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. Everybody can see it.
Intellectual challenge? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but he'd have to have some intellect to challenge me on my intellect. And he's demonstrated that he has none.
That's a good point. See?
I mean, I don't claim to be Mr. Razor's Edge, but growing up in the streets, and it bodes well in life as you go along.
Yeah, it's been an eventful 12 years. Here's to another 12 of equal eventfulness.
Well, you say, like the 12 o'clock?
Yes.
Oh, shoot.
They're like 2038.
Yeah, that would be 12 years.
Yeah, I don't get this. They shut down the freaking internet last night because they were doing some updates on it, and I guess whatever they were doing. Right? And today it's worse.
They got to test their updates on somebody.
Yeah, because I thought it was off because we didn't pay the bill. The son paid it, and I'm getting a whirly-whirl. Then he says, well, it says that on the 28th, they're going to be doing work from midnight till 8 o'clock in the morning to get everything up to date, I guess. What do you call that when they do that? Updating it? It's another word they use, too. But,
update's a word that we use to say we're putting some new software in. Doesn't mean it's making it better.
All right, so they put new software in. So they put software to me that made it worse because I'm getting a whirly-whirl on my TV right now. So that means I have no internet.
We tried turning it off and on again.
Yeah, I unplugged it.
I wasn't saying do it now. dropped just after I asked him.
Where'd he go?
If I asked him if he turned it off and on again, and then he dropped. Yeah, I do that often. Click.
Look, I pressed this button.
Now that was right on cue. Did you see how I got cut off?
No, we could hear you the whole time shouting at your wife. Outrageous.
I got cut off because freaking I was hooked to the internet. So now I got to use my plan minutes or whatever you call it on the phone.
Mobile data.
Yeah, I got to use my data now. This is bullshit. Are they going to give me money back for this?
Over the curry the other week, Craig was saying that it's a bit of a, I can't remember if you as you or your son that was saying it's a gripe when people come in and they say that they can't get Wi-Fi, meaning mobile data. One of those incorrect uses. Is that you?
Yeah, because like they're not the same thing. I get terrible Wi-Fi at home. Well, then sort your Wi-Fi out. But it's my phone.
I almost dropped it into the live show when we were talking about Bluetooth. Well, sometimes your Bluetooth connection at home isn't very good and your internet slows down a little bit. See if I could trigger you.
I was going to say something about that earlier. That whole idea, because, you know, the connection for your voice for sounds. But I always remember that BT couldn't play music down their telephone wires because the copper wires weren't capable of holding all the frequencies. Right. It's quite interesting that new technology, like if you have a phone call now, it's almost like in stereo. It's got a quality to it you'd never get on a normal old school copper wire.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we say that the conversion of analog. So it's about the transportation. The idea is don't bother with the phone, go and see the person and it'll sound great.
Yeah.
So yeah, Neil, you want to get a better microphone. Is it you got, I missed the whole thing about that. What was going wrong with your mic?
My mic is fine. It's when what's his name? Len comes in, he's usually on Bluetooth, and he sounds like he's in a cave somewhere far, far away. Anybody with Bluetooth.
Depends on the quality of the microphone. And then, yes, there is a connection issue. The amount of data, so like when you're watching a film, if it's a good quality film, you need more data. Well, if your wires can't take that data and the wires can be invisible or visible, then it'll suffer. It'll chop bits off and it'll make it sound awful. That's why when you're watching digital TV, if you're streaming and it starts going all blocky, but nowadays they just go, oh, let's put a little whirly wheel up to say, oh, there's not enough data. We'll do some more buffering. The idea is you still get quality picture, but you have to wait till the buffer fills up.
Well, I'm getting nothing.
I'm glad we got that squared away. We'll do one more show on the Feast of Nonsense. Right, over the weekend, I'll try and trim out another dozen from the last 2 or 3 days. See if I can turn them all into shorts videos. Has anybody been seeing them as I release them? Have you been seeing the shorts videos I've been putting out?
I gave you a warning. Here, you ready for it? The sun being in the sky for 24 hours in a day is not a measurement. It's an observation. his circles will get him in trouble. I guess they're talking about circles of equal elevation, of equal altitude.
Don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I'll give you another one. Jesse Path the Light found his way into this freaking server. Oh boy. Everybody knows the equator is a straight line. Nathan's circle, your circle, Nathan, has a ratio of pi equals 2 at the equator.
I'm pretty sure I dealt with that when it was suggested to be mine when he put it to me. I'm pretty sure I annihilated that as well. By pretty sure, I mean I know exactly that I did.
Yeah, it's funny though when you come in, it was like they all like I think they're banned here. I'm not sure. They claim that they're banned here. So I don't know.
You have to ask Divergent Droid. I doubt it.
We're asking you if Bev and Bear and people of that lot are banned over here because they claim that they're banned, DD. He asked the question in chat. Divergent George said he does not remember. He will search out the matter. Now the question is, if they are banned, do you want them unbanned, Nathan?
I don't care.
Right, because we could deal with them on the show. He acts up, they can mute it, dumbass. No, not mute, but I mean, you decide what you want to do with them, but you know how they can get. Like he gets to the point where he just starts talking to you and he'll just keep going.
Yeah, it's not like I can't cope with them. But no, generally speaking, it's just an open door, as you well know, Neil.
Yeah.
It does kind of beg the question, why are they actually concerned with coming and talking to me? Right? In the same way, I suggested that at any point they could have said, if you feel that there's no debate, you wouldn't be here, but yet you are. So you're contradicting yourself when you say there's no debate. Because why would you want to come and tell me that there's no debate? That seems self-defeating. But by the same token, it's like, why do you want to come and talk to me? You're not obviously comfortable with your position because you feel that you've got a requirement to defend it.
That's true.
Right, a couple more minutes, then I'm going to round out. I did ask, but no one answered. Are you enjoying the shorts videos I've been putting out? Anybody seen any of them?
Yeah, they've been good, Nathan. I've been enjoying them.
Well, like I said at the top of the show, I've been particularly proud of those shorts videos because they're a concise summary of like all these different feast of nonsense points. Every single one being capable of being condensed to about 2 or 3 minutes, if not one. Hopefully a few people will share them around, as in 99% of them don't have any vulgar language in them. They're very, very shareable.
I think it'd be fun to clip a couple, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do, or if I should be doing that or not and posting it that way.
However you feel that you want to share it. If you want to clip it, do as you do. But yeah, that's fine by me. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, as long as that has your approval. You know, I'd have to pick through stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there.
But yeah, that's like my parting gift to the conspiratards that we have associated with for 10 years. So here you go. Here's a nice summary of all the subjects that we've been covering for 10 years and how we whistled past flat Earth for every one of them. Because at the very least, even if these people that they get shared with, that is, from our own perceived side from years gone by, get this, whatever, shorts video about, what did I do, the Bedford level. And they understand and appreciate that the distances are measured flat for the Bedford level, right? If they take that and go, well, I'll continue to argue as I have been, but if I ever get into any trouble with the debate that I have about the Bedford level with a baller, I know that any point I can pull out my trump card. Well, the distance is just measured flat anyway. And that ultimately draws a conclusion to the argument. So they can always win if they've got some of those shorts videos that have pointed out the flat Earth prerequisites that are required to have the argument. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit me up on PayPal and Patreon and all that good stuff. If you do happen to come across one of the shorts videos yourself, please be sure to share them. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.